Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to these public hearings. Today's public hearings are convened under the provisions of the Local Government Act of British Columbia to hear submissions relative to the proposed bylaws. All persons who believe that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws shall be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard respecting matters in the proposed bylaws. I would ask those members of the public who wish to speak to commence your address to the board by clearly stating your name. The board will not debate the matters of a proposed bylaw with individual citizens, but members may ask questions of you following your presentation. The main function of this public hearing is to listen to your views. No one will be or should feel discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. First hearing. The purpose of bylaw number 2882 is to rezone common property golf course from CR1 to AF1 at Rivershore to make the existing golf course use legally conforming, and rezone all residential strata parcels within Rivershore Estates from AF1 or CR1 to R1 to more accurately reflect actual land use and density. Ms. Corporate Officer, are there any further written submissions? Director Karpak.
Chair Roden, I'm going to step out on this matter as I've had a relationship with one of the individuals involved with this matter, and just for real or otherwise, I still have a direct relationship. So for real or perceived, I am going to step out. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. We have had one written submission, Ms. Corporate Officer. Are there any further written submissions?
There are no further written submissions.
Thank you. Are there any in-person submissions? I'm going to call a second time. Are there any public submissions about this bylaw? Calling for a third and final time for any submissions. There being no further speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. All right, second hearing. The purpose of bylaw number 2884 is to amend the CD2 Comprehensive Development Zone to add the recreational vehicle park use and add new recreational vehicle park conditions of use for property at Quilchena Point RV. Ms. Corporate Officer, are there any written submissions?
There are no written submissions.
Thank you. Are there any in-person submissions regarding this item? Sir? Thank you. If you just state your name, sir.
Hey, my name is Dave Cunliffe. I reside at number 8, 5260 Squilax Anglemont Road in Celista. And I'm here today to speak in favor of the proposal. And I'm also an agent of the applicant. There's a couple of points I really want to emphasize. The proposal is really just to change the length of stay in the RV park from the current 30 days to bring it in line with the RVP zoning and allow longer stays. And it's being done largely to respond to market demand. So there's no changes in the number of RVs, no additional development. The RV park is serviced by a community water system that serves everything at Quilchena except Quilchena on the Lake and Sagebrush. There's also a community water or community sewer system serving the Quilchena area. And septic effluent is pumped 1.1 kilometers upland away from the lake. It's regulated under the municipal wastewater regulation. And we conduct annual monitoring on groundwater quality, and there have been no issues. Also from a water supply perspective, we don't anticipate any change, but the community water system has a well, relies on a groundwater source that's 90 meters deep. The maximum depth of Quilchena Lake is 55 meters, and our groundwater hydrologist feels that this aquifer we're in the Quilchena Creek Valley is not connected to Nicola Lake. So those are the clarifications or points I wanted to emphasize. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Does anyone here have any questions? No? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other submissions in person? Going to call a second time for public submissions. Calling a third and final time. Thank you. There being no further speakers, I declare this public hearing closed. All right, call to order this meeting of the Thompson-Nicola Regional District for Thursday, July 17th, 2025. The TNRD acknowledges that we connect with many First Nation communities across our vast regional district, and today we are located on the Kamloops Secwepemc territory situated within the ancestral lands of the Secwepemc Nation. The TNRD appreciates the partnership that we have with Kamloops Secwepemc, and we respect the territory and land on which we gather today. I'd like to welcome alternate director Noni McCann here for Director O'Connor. Welcome. Library update. The library is thrilled to announce a new pilot program for teens, One Book, One Summer. This youth community book club is bringing teens across the district together by reading Dreamer by Akim Aliou. The graphic novel memoir is an honest, gut-wrenching account of the author's experiences in the junior and professional hockey world across the globe. Related programming from the TNRL includes workshops where teens will have the chance to create their own zine storybook about overcoming obstacles, self-serve take and make kits with a zine template and a jersey logo design, as well as a special teen book club to discuss the title. You can find more information about this inside your blue folders. The TNRD congratulates 5 bursary recipients in 2025. The Thompson-Nicola Regional District congratulated 5 graduating high school students who have been recognized in 2025 as part of the annual TNRD bursary program. Bursary recipients for the 2024-25 school year were as follows. Felix Jones, Clearwater Secondary School in SD 73, received $2,000. Cade Allison, David Stoddart School in Clinton in SD 74, received $1,000. Danny Cuso, Merritt Secondary School in SD 58, received $1,000. Rachel Sam, Desert Sands Community School, School District 74, received $1,000. And Harlan Wainwright, Merritt Secondary School, SD 58, received $1,000. The TNRD is very happy to be able to provide these bursaries, which not only recognize student dedication, determination, and achievement, but also give students a helping hand as they start on the next chapter of their lives. Today's graduating students are tomorrow's leaders, and we look forward to seeing what they will all accomplish in the years to come. As part of the TNRD's bursary program, up to $2,000 can be awarded each year by each of the 3 school districts that have high schools within the TNRD's geographic region. School districts can offer 1 $2,000 bursary or 2 $1,000 bursaries to high school graduates. Applications are adjudicated by the respective school districts. Chair's update. The TNRL is thrilled about the new partnership with the City of Kamloops that will potentially see a new library come to Southwest Kamloops as part of the Build Kamloops Arena Multiplex. As the first key priority in the TNRL's facilities master plan, this long-hoped-for library space will be a huge asset to the future of Kamloops and the TNRD as a whole. And just a personal note, my dad was a junior hockey referee throughout much of my childhood. I used to go with him to games on weekends, quality time with dad, keep him company on the drive. These were rinky-dink little rinks. This was not the Sandman Center. And I would sit there in the bleachers and read a book. If there'd been a library attached to any of these arenas, I would have been in 7th heaven. And I've already heard from families who are talking about how excited they are when they have multiple children, especially playing hockey in tournaments, at practices. Now something for the rest of the family to do. So it's an awesome partnership. Director Hall, Chair of the Build Kamloops Committee, thank you for steering this. Should I say stick handling this through at your end? Sorry, it was there. I had to say it. And thank you to the staff here at the TNRD and at the Library Service for working long and hard on this. I'm sorry that Judy Moore is not here to make this announcement, because I know that this was a passion of hers. She's worked so hard on this over the years, but I know that she is rejoicing with us from Salt Lake City. And on a sadder note, I just want to offer condolences to former TNRD Director and former Clinton Mayor Susan Swan, who many here will remember. After many decades in Clinton, Susan and her husband Greg were in the middle of planning a move back to Ontario to be closer to family. And the sad news came yesterday that Greg suffered a massive heart attack and sadly passed away. So condolences to Susan. Greg was a lovely man. They were both pillars of their community for many, many years. He will be sadly missed. So thoughts and condolences with Susan at this time. Upcoming meetings and events. August 14th, we have our regular board meeting. September 9th, we have the Accessibility Advisory Committee at 10. On the 10th of September, we have the EA Directors Committee at 9 and the Policy and Governance Committee at 1:30. And on September 11th, we have the Hospital District Board meeting at 10 a.m. and a regular board meeting at 1:30. And before we know it, UBCM will be here September 22nd to 26th, this year taking place in Victoria. Today in your blue folders, you will find regular mail and a Fire Smart update. And my usual reminder that in the event of an emergency, if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the safest and nearest exit doors, either at the rear of this room or to my left. Go to the main entrance, go down the staircase. Please do not use the elevator. Exit the building and assemble in the staff car park at the rear of the Paramount Theater. Please don't run. If you have issues with mobility, please advise the corporate officer. All right, on we go. Are there any additions to or deletions from the agenda? No. We do have the minutes of the regular board meeting held on June 26th for your consideration. Thank you, Director Ranta, seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Are there any errors or omissions? Seeing none, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. Bylaws from public hearing, 7.1, zoning amendment bylaw number 2882 in electoral area P.
Chair, for the same reasons I declared previous conflict with a public hearing, I'd like to step out on this matter.
Thank you. All right, we do have two recommendations. Director Ranta, seconded by Director Middleton. Thank you. So we have zoning amendment bylaw number 2882 being read a third time. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. And second recommendation.
Move to.
Director O'Reilly, seconded by Director Morris. Discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Someone could just give Director Karpuk a sign. Thank you. Item 7.2, zoning amendment bylaw number 2884 in electoral area M. We have a recommendation.
So moved.
Director Haughton, seconded by Director Newstader. Any discussion on this? Third reading? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Delegation, we have the Sunrise Expansion Project, Enbridge Project Coordinator Shauna McDonald.
Good afternoon.
Oh, Good afternoon.
Thank you for having me. My colleague Jennifer Procara would normally be doing this delegation for the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, but Jen is taking a couple days vacation, so I'm stepping in on her behalf. Can you, I guess I should share my screen, hey? Let me know if you can see it on your end.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm here to give you an update on the Sunrise Expansion Program. And let's see if I can get it to move. There we go. Our projects and operations span treaty and tribal lands, the Nation Métis homeland, unceded lands and traditional territories of Indigenous nations, tribes, governments, and groups across North America, including the unceded traditional territory of the Kamloops Chewek members. So this is a big overview map of all of the Enbridge sort of entities and assets across North America. The blue lines are the gas transmission. Purple represents liquids such as oil. Yellow is the gas storage. And green would be our renewables such as wind and solar. Natural gas transmission in British Columbia, formerly known as West Coast Energy, is now West Coast Energy Limited Partnership. It spans 2,900 kilometers from up near Fort Nelson all the way down to the Canada-US border at Huntington, Sumas. We've been here for almost 70 years. The Sunrise Expansion Program is a proposed expansion of the T-South portion of the system, and it's being driven by a demand to increase the natural gas capacity to serve BC and the Pacific Northwest. It includes the addition of 42-inch diameter pipeline looping, additional compression, as well as we're going to proposing some electric-driven compressors, so there will be a power line component as well. The project planning started in 2023. We are currently in the regulatory application submission process. If approved, construction will start in Q2 of 2026, so spring of next year, with an in-service date of late 2028. Come on. There we go. Economic impacts to BC in 2024. Enbridge employed over 200 employees in BC. We paid more than $129 million in taxes in BC, and that includes $7.7 million in property taxes to the Thompson-Nicola Regional District. If approved, this project is expected to employ over 500 workers for the pipeline work and 100 workers for the facilities construction within the TNRD, and over $1.2 million is expected to be paid in municipal property taxes over a 35-year period. Local community benefits. In the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, over $340,000 was contributed directly to the community through donations and events since 2023, including Away Home, Interior Community Service, Southern Interior Local Government Association, the Regional District of Thompson-Nicola Flash Flood Relief, and the Savannah Volunteer Fire Department. The project is made up of 3 components, which include pipeline looping, compression, and power transmission. There are 3 electric-powered compressor units being considered, and with those go up to 10 kilometers of overhead power lines. We've got 139 kilometers of 42-inch piping proposed in various locations, not consecutively. So within the TNRD, we're looking at a total of 11 kilometers of pipeline loop. About 7 kilometers of that will run west of Lone Butte towards Green Lake. And I think that's where there's just a little bit of a crossover from the Caribou Regional District into the Thompson-Nicola Regional District, as well as 4 kilometers from south of Savannah to north of Tonquah Provincial Park. Compressor stations. There'll be an additional electric-powered compressor unit at the existing compressor station CS8A, just south of Merritt. And then to power that compressor unit, there'll be about 3 kilometers of overhead power line to be installed to an existing third-party power line just north of Kingsvale. And as part of our process, we're doing socioeconomic assessment and feedback, which will feed into our socioeconomic effects management plan. What we're asking of you is to work with us to feed into that plan. We can set up a separate meeting outside of this once we've identified who the best contact is, and our team will work to gather important information that affect the community, including health, social, cultural well-being, employment, security and safety, etc. And this data will all develop that effects management plan. This is a quick slide on the CER application process. There is a link included in this deck to the application. If you're looking for some light reading or you can't fall asleep one night, there is the whole application that you can look over. But right now we're kind of halfway along the process, anticipating a decision in Q1 of 2026, which would then lead us to the start of construction in Q2 of 2026. Here's some links to our project webpage, which includes a link to our virtual open house, as well as the CER application and contact information. As we have project updates, these will be added to the website that you can refer back to at any time. And there's a QR code that will take you to the site as well. And then we have a couple of videos that have been developed. One is on the Sunrise Expansion Program itself and includes more in-depth information on the CER process, as well as a new video that's been developed that explains the components of the West Coast system. It's fantastic and explains things really well. So they're a bit long to run through in this presentation, but I encourage you to take a look in your own time. And then here's some contact information. Our BC Projects inbox is actually monitored by me, so you will get a real person on the other end of that, as well as our toll-free number if there's any comments or concerns. And now for the questions, if there are any.
All right, thank you very much. Director Grenier starts us off.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. We, as the TNRD, particularly some of the TNRD directors where the pipeline is going through, have met with you and have provided written letters of support. I think our most recent letter was to the committee that is reviewing your application.
Yes.
Is there any timeline where you're asking for our input? Of course, we provided input, so we're keen as you are to communicate and move forward on those projects that we have identified in our respective communities. So any kind of timeline on when we might get together on that?
My colleague Claire is also on the line and she's taking notes. So I will work with Claire and we will get Jen to set up a meeting with you when she is back. In terms of community investment and things like that, we can share a link on how you apply for that funding, and that you don't have to wait for that. You can submit those requests at any time. And we've got Enbridge has a portal through Benevity that all of those applications will be received. And then when you've talked to Jen, she can then, when we meet once a month to review those applications, she'll be able to speak to those with the greater group on a monthly basis.
Just supplemental to that, will you be attending UBCM? I think we met at UBCM last year, and that might be an opportune time to get together to advance these things.
Absolutely, and yes, we will be there. Jen will be there as well as myself, and I'll get Claire to make a note that we can set something up and add TNRD to our list of meetings.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions, comments? No? All right, thank you very much again for your presentation, and I'm sure that by the time UBCM rolls around, people will have thought of a few more questions and comments for you.
Excellent. And if any questions come in later today, feel free to reach out, and thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we move on to item 9.1, City of Merritt Security Issuing Bylaw number 2887, 2025. We have 3 recommendations. Director Ranta, thank you. Seconded by Vice Chair Smith. Discussion. Anyone have any questions, comments? All right, on recommendation 1 then, all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? Carried. We have a second recommendation. Director Smith, seconded by Director Bass. Thank you. Any discussion on a third reading of this? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And recommendation 3. Director Newstater, thank you. Seconded by Director Sarai. Any discussion? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is adopted. Thank you. Item 10.1, Agricultural Land Commission, application number ALR 246 in electoral area L. We do have a recommendation. Director Haughton makes that recommendation, seconded by Director Thorpe. Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Any discussion? Questions, comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. 10.2, ALC application number ALR 248 in electoral area P. We do have recommendation. Move the recommendation, Director Middleton, seconded by Director Morris. Anyone have any discussion, questions, comments on this item? Oh, and I would at this point just like to thank staff for their usual, thorough, and very full reports, very comprehensive. And I think the lack of questions and comments speaks to how thorough and comprehensive those reports are. Any discussion on this? In that case, all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. 10.3, ALC application number ALR 250 in electoral area L.
I so move.
Director Haughton moves that, seconded by Director Hall. Any discussion on this item? Questions, comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried. And item 10.4, ALC application number ALR 251 in electoral area I. Director Thorpe, seconded by Director Smith. Thank you. Any discussion on this item? Questions, comments? In that case, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. We move on to reports. We have a verbal report from CAO Hildebrand.
Thank you, Chair Roden. Good afternoon, Board of Directors. I just have a handful of updates I'd like to provide. Firstly, new email list communication update that I shared with the board last time. Just wanted to give a quick update that we've had more than 250 people sign up for to our local email list since we launched this in late June. Our communications team has sent 20 emails to these various TNRD email lists with topics such as emergency notices, news releases, board meeting highlights, newsletters, public hearings. It's been very successful so far with just over the last few weeks. We expect to see this list grow as we continue to share that on social media and just have another way of communicating with our residents through email, as that seems to be sometimes the preferential way. The second item I wanted to talk about was just some great news. The Monty Creek Fire Hall is near complete. That will be opening in the very near future, and there will be a grand opening in September. Many residents will likely have noticed the building envelope was recently completed, and construction is expected to be fully finished in the coming weeks. At a time, the fire hall on Hook Road near Highway 1 will become the permanent home of the Monty Creek Fire Department, which serves approximately 356 properties in that area, which include Monty Creek, Del Oro, Lafarge, and Barnhart Vale. And as I mentioned, we are aiming for September for the official grand opening. From a Fire Smart standpoint, I'd like to provide a quick update on this program. The Fire Smart program helps communities to reduce fire risk through home assessments, public education, and mitigation support. In 2025, 6 coordinators completed 229 assessments to date, with more scheduled. Homeowners can also access rebates to the wildfire mitigation work for up to $500 for those under 65 and $750 for those over 65. The program also runs chipping days to remove flammable material, with 11 events held so far. FireSmart continues to engage the public through presentations and community events, 18 to date so far. So please refer to a report in your blue folders for further details on specifics within electoral areas. And then finally, before I pass it over to Mr. Kelly, an EOC update. Had a bit of a scare early January, at the end of June and January, with fires really kicking up throughout the region. We were activated on June 30th with the Harper Lake Road wildfire southwest of Chase. We worked and coordinated with Nisconlith Indian Band, the Village of Chase, and BC Wildfire to put several TNRD properties on evacuation alert. TNRD staff went door to door that afternoon to notify residents. The Chase ESS team, which is managed through the TNRD emergency program, was also activated, so thank you to them, and worked very closely with the Nisconlith band as well to help with evacuees. 2 other wildfires then began in the following days: Nakaya Creek and Eisman Creek fires, both of which led to residents of the TNRD being put on both order and state of local emergency in electoral area I. As of last week, all evacuation orders and alerts have been removed. As always, our staff showed extraordinary dedication and flexibility in getting the EOC up and running, despite it happening over, of course, it always happens on the July long weekend, and we are certainly ready for that. While the current situation is stable, there's still plenty of fire season ahead of us, unfortunately. Due to ongoing drought conditions, we are certainly concerned and are very much aware of our surroundings. Our EOC has staffed up and have plans in place to make sure that we manage this through the summer into September. So no concerns with that. And now I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Kelly to just provide a couple quick updates.
Thank you, CEO Hildebrand. Good afternoon, everyone. I do have 3 updates. Well, 4. There's a new one that happened this morning that I just wanted to update the board on. First being First Nations engagement. Currently, we're in talks with Simp First Nation, who we do have an MOU with, to host a leadership working group in October. The exact date is to be determined, but just wanting to keep the board aware. We're also discussing possible dates for leadership meetings with Highbar First Nation and to Kamloops to Secwepemc, respectively. MOU talks continue to advance positively with Nisconlith, and we're always looking for additional partnerships wherever we can make them. Second, we're beginning to plan our advocacy tour following a very successful one in early March. And as we go into UBCM, we want to make sure that we continue to lobby for the needs of the region. We're currently working with staff in Victoria at different ministries to secure meetings with ministers, and we will share more information once dates are secured and we're able to move forward with that. Finally, before I move into this quick update here, UBCM 2025, we are continuing to meet with senior staff from each ministry that we'll be meeting with during the convention. Those meetings are going very, very positively, keeping them up to date as to what the needs are and what it is that we're requesting, and tweaking our asks of the minister so that there's alignment from the ministry side to ensure that we're actually able to get some things across the finish line. A quick reminder that if any individual directors want to request meetings with ministry staff, those need to be to me by July 22nd so that we can work on briefing notes and submit those meeting requests. Lastly, and I know that some of you were busy this morning, I just wanted to give you an update that as of today, the provincial cabinet was shuffled, and there's 2 to note. One, there is a new Minister of Public Safety Public Safety and Solicitor General. That is Nina Krieger, the MLA for Victoria Swan Lake. She replaces Gary Begg. And Christine Boyle is the new Minister of Housing and Municipal Affairs, replacing Ravi Kalon. So just a quick update there, and I'm sure that there'll be a lot to find on social media for that. But that's all unless there's any questions.
Director Thorpe?
Thank you. So a couple quick questions. Are you setting up minister meetings during UBCM on some of the advocacy topics that the TNRD board could attend? And secondly, I sent in, I think, 3 requests last or earlier this week. Have you received those? And can we make an appointment to follow up and so I can round those out with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, of course, UBCM meeting requests for ministers, all directors are welcome to attend, and we should have confirmation of those by late next month. And we can certainly make time to meet, and I did receive your requests. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? And CAO Hildebrand has one more update.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Roden. In my comments around the EOC, I got a timely response here that I think this happened roughly an hour or 2 ago with the rock slide in Savanaugh. There were no injuries, but the road is closed right now. So just FYI for those that are heading that way.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else have any questions? Comments? All right, we move on to 11.1.2 NDIT. We have a marketing initiatives application. We do have a recommendation. Director Ranta, thank you. Vice Chair Smith seconds. Anyone have any questions or comments? I know Area I certainly gets its more than its fair share, really, of filmmakers coming into our region, attracted by its beauty and its varied landscape. So thank you to Ms. Hadwin for finding this opportunity and for helping to bulk out some of the images in the library of this beautiful part of our area, of our regional district. Not that I'm at all biased in favor of the Area I region, of course. I love the entire TNRD equally. But we do have a recommendation. Does anyone have any more questions or comments? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Strategic priorities update. Manager of Communications and Marketing, Mr. Davis. And this is for information only, but questions and comments will be welcomed.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I know you have a lot to get to today, so I'll try and keep this pretty brief, but we've maybe gotten into a habit now of doing this twice a year. So the board's seen this a couple times, last July and then again in January for the board. I guess that was their strategic plan workshop that you did. So this is kind of a short high-level overview, not an exhaustive list of everything that staff have been doing, but an overview of a number of projects in the last 6 months and showing how they align with each part of your strategic plan. So there was a handout in everyone's blue folder, and that same handout with the actual progress update is posted on our strategic plan webpage. If anyone, public or you, the board, wanted to follow up there, just a heads up. So I'll stop and pause like I did in January, pausing for questions after each of the 5 strategic plan focus areas. It's a lot of text, so I've tried to make it a lot of pictures so that we're not looking at this the whole time with each update. The first picture was hard to get, sorry planning. But actually that's not bad now that I see it on the screen. Section 1 is livability in the built environment. So the first item that I'm just speaking to a few of these that are in your list. There's an asterisk beside topics where we've actually updated for this edition of what you have in front of you. So with the OCP plans for electoral areas LNP and MNN, those are 2 brand new separate OCPs that planning have been working on for over a year. There was a second round of engagement this past spring, 7 open houses held in early May in various communities There was a second public survey that was live until June 30th, a few weeks ago. We had about 100 responses to that. We published what we heard reports for each OCP on each of the project web pages that are on the TNRD site. These reports and open house presentation materials are published on those web pages as well. You can expect the OCPs to come to the board likely by December for recommended adoption. Clearwater Library upgrades. I meant to put in a newer photo. The front canopy is actually done there now. This was from a little earlier in the spring. From the outside, it looks finished, but there's still some work going on inside. That's a construction project that started in January. The library's been temporarily in the Dutch Lake Community Center since then, nearby in Clearwater. Some of the upgrades are replacing the roof, new hardy plank siding, a new wheelchair accessible entrance, new canopy I just mentioned. There's a whole lot more. You, the board, awarded the contract for that at the November 7th meeting. That was up to $428,000. So there's quite a lot in that project. South Kamloops Library planning. Staff have been working on that. Everyone would be aware of the update that came out, the joint news release with the TNRD and the city earlier in the week, confirming the Dufferin Arena multiplex plans. Details are still to be sorted out, but it's an agreement in principle. That is the #1 priority in the TNRL facilities master plan, is a Southwest Kamloops library. The TNRL has been looking for a place to build for many years, but more regularly and thoroughly the last 4 or 5, I believe, to get to this point. It doesn't change the plan, this announcement, for the Aberdeen Tiny Library, with the hours just being doubled as of May 1st from 16 to 32 per week, and the lease being renewed for another 3 years that the board approved at the February 20th meeting. So that lease currently in place until 2028. Moving on with this section still, solid waste B-train trailer replacements. The important, costly, and maybe why local government's not that sexy when we're talking about this being one of the bigger ticket items for the whole year for the TNRD. Staff procured 4 new trailers to replace existing ones, and the total cost just under 1.5 million. Half of that funded through the Canada Community Building Fund and half by the solid waste reserves. The board approved that just recently on June 26th. We use those to move garbage and recycling from solid waste sites to landfills and recycling processors where things can be taken for recycling. This is a big one for the TNRD so far this year, the Pritchard Water Treatment Plant project. The Utilities Committee got a pretty thorough update about that at the June meeting a few weeks ago. That's moving along. Construction started in April. It's expected to be fully finished in early 2026, this project, to provide really filtered drinking water for the customers of the Pritchard water system. It'll be the first for any of the TNRD community water systems. And again, it's a larger of the water systems in the TNRD, but Pritchard's still tiny. And this is a $6 million project, more than 80% of it grant funded. I won't spend a lot of time on the Monty Creek Fire Hall. Scott talked about that in the CAO report, but coming along, and that's how it looked a few weeks ago. Before I start with section 2, were there any questions from any of the projects we just talked about or anything on the list? I'll go to you, Chair.
Any questions or comments? Anything? No? All right. Oh, Director Haughton.
Just 2 things. Those trailers that we purchased for the solid waste departments, it's nice to see that they're built in our fine province in the town of Sarai by Titan Trailers, and it's nice to support not only Canada but BC. And Jamie, on the Monty Creek Fire Hall, that other request that I shared with you and Ian about the yard, is there any update on where that might be going as far as what I proposed to you?
Yeah, so around the surfacing of the parking lot area, now that the envelope's complete, we're looking at kind of the outstanding asks that's not included in the construction. And actually we'll be having a discussion with you shortly around possible allocation of additional funding for those final projects. And that'll come before the board.
Director Sarai?
Just a quick suggestion on the trailers. If we're gonna promote TNRD and non-sexy things, I think a graphic on it that it's a TNRD trailer would be great, and advertise that we're doing ours our thing in the region.
Other questions or comments on the first part of the presentation? Director Karpuk?
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at the building and its location and that beautiful sunny day, I'm just wondering if in the future there's any thoughts to looking at putting some solar panels on the roof and taking advantage of that opportunity. If a grant came up or something in the future, it looks like that might be a way to give them, at least maybe with a battery backup, something in the event that there was no power out there. Just a thought.
Mr. Vieira?
Sure, through the chair, I'll just mention, it's not in the current plan or budget, but we actually have a few buildings that's been contemplated for if there was opportunities. One that comes to mind is the Cache Creek Eco Depot was designed around that future opportunity as well.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments so far? All right, carry on.
Thank you, Chair. I think that was the longest one. So we're 1/5 of the way there, but I promise for more than that. Number 2 out of 5, relationships and reconciliation. One of the big highlights under this area for the TNRD would have been signing the memorandum of understanding with the High Bar First Nation. That happened in early January. That feels like a long time ago, taking that photo. This is, of course, you toured the traditional territory of High Bar a few weeks ago with the Clinton out-of-town board meeting and board tour. With the MOU signing we had in January, High Bar Chief and Council and staff attended for the signing ceremony in our building pictured there. This is Corbin, Barbara, and Scott in Victoria at the legislature. Corbin just mentioned the upcoming the TNRD advocacy tour that they're working on. This was the inaugural one, I suppose, that happened in February. And I know this has been talked about extensively at past board meetings too. Some outside the box thinking led to some really positive outcomes and relationship building. Really quick as well, staff training and development. A lot of good culture building with leadership training going on right now for non-union staff at the TNRD. That's management as well. It's mandatory to attend in person for better engagement when you're in the room, as we all usually know. Sessions have been so far about leadership foundations, health and safety, and performance management. There was also a Robert's Rules of Order training session in late May with Lisa Zworn, which was really well done. The next leadership training session is on budget. There's several others that are going to happen in the fall as well. That's it for this section, Chair.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Moving right along.
Economic sustainability and resiliency. There's our good logo in action on the e-generators for the Film Commission that we launched earlier this year. We designed the wrap on those in-house too, which was great. But the e-generators formally rolled out in June, available for production companies to lease when they're filming in this area. There's no companies as we speak right now that provide electric generators. They're all gas, of course. So this is a first for the Kamloops film industry. All 3 of these e-generators, we have 3 of them to loan out or lease to production companies, and they were all purchased with grant funding through the local government climate action program. They're obviously quiet, these e-generators, and they're suitable for using in rural and urban areas, which is important, of course, for our demographic as well. Wanted to briefly touch on our e-billing sign-up campaign. We started doing this for our utility customers in late 2024 before the Canada Post strike happened ahead of the holidays, helping ensure that water and sewer customers get their bills when there is a strike going on. We had a similar campaign took place in the spring before the expected May job action that there was a lot of talk about leading up to that. Fortunately, that hasn't led to a full-blown strike or any big disruptions, but we've had more than 60 customers sign up for our new e-billing. It doesn't sound like a lot, but when we have 1,000 customers for all our systems, that's a good percentage who have made the switch. Previously, customers had to call us and arrange and give us their info to get their bill by email. So we had about a quarter of our utility customers do that well before this. So when you add it all together, we're at about a third of our customers now getting their bills electronically, which is secure, it's convenient, you get the statement sooner, especially if there's a mail strike, and it obviously saves paper too. So about a third of our customers now get their bill electronically, but out of all of them, 3/4 pay electronically. So most people get their paper statement, put it on their wall, I'm not sure, pin it on their mantle, and then pay on their phone or through their bank or electronically somehow. So we know there's potential to keep growing that. I'll stop there really quick and see if there was any questions, Chair.
Any questions? No? All right. Thank you. Next.
This might be the most involved one actually, is emergency planning and response, just because this is such a specific priority in your plan. Tobiano Cherry Creek Fire Protection, I'll touch on this briefly. Obviously, we put this proposal to both communities for expanding the Tobiano Fire Protection area and proposing to borrow to build a fire hall and buy trucks and equipment, and it did not pass in the referendum. So now we're at the point of being back at square one for looking at the existing Tobiano service area and searching for land for a new fire hall for that service area. And of course, that means that Cherry Creek will continue to not have fire protection. Emergency preparedness messaging, we sent out a Voint alert test notice, as we've now started to do every year. This was on May 9th. It's not a great graphic, but those are all the pins that received our message on May 9th, our test alert with it blaring on their phone. We also spent a few $100s on newspaper advertising this year, which is something we haven't done a lot of, but explaining where to find emergency information from the TNRD during a flood or a fire. Where do you look? I'm just going to add a shameless plug here because I'm the communications guy and it's the middle of summer. But you know, if you're concerned about an order or alert in the TNRD and where do I look? The first step is probably our new emergency website, which is eoc.tnrd.ca. We link that in all of our notices and posts when we're talking EOC. Obviously, subscribing to Voint Alert, like what we have on the screen here, to get notified. Subscribing to our emergency notices or news release contact lists by email. Following the TNRD on Facebook, Blue Sky, X, Twitter. Contacting staff directly at our office and after hours calling the EOC. And of course, if you were being put on order, available first responders would notify you directly. If you're on alert, we would use all the other methods I just talked about. Scott also talked about Fire Smart programming in his CAO report, but we've had a whole lot new this year with rebates, expanding chipping days, continuing many community events as well. Our Community Emergency Response Organization Program, this is residents of Venables Valley getting trained with basic wildfire training when they were under evacuation order last summer. This was at a property in Knutsford. This launched, it's kind of the pilot program, and the TNRD's been a bit of the poster child for it, in part because of the Knutsford group who's spoken to you at your committees and other times too. And you're well aware of the success of that Knutsford group working with Wildfire Service in 2023, which spurred a lot of this. The TNRD had a $100,000 grant from UBCM to get local groups trained with basic wildfire training and to purchase PPE. We were oversubscribed with 14 eligible groups. So our fire protection team did a really good job of finding other funding sources through the province and through Fraser Basin Council to make sure that every eligible group that applied was able to get their funding amount of up to $10,000, even though our grant didn't cover all of the requests we got. And my understanding is by the end of July, all of these 14 groups will have completed the training that the basic wildfire training. Some of them have already done it, knowing that we're in the middle of July, but they'll have completed training and have their PPE in hand within the next couple weeks. So that's really good news. And once that's all done, it's just a matter of if there's a fire in their area, it's completely up to the wildfire service on whether they get utilized or not. We don't have a say in that, but we've facilitated all the training with the grant that we've had available. Couple other quick things is we did a Door knocking exercise for the second straight year. This was at Paul Lake. This was a graphic that we put on social media back in early April to let people know we might knock on your door and hand you an info package. TNRD did this in partnership with Kamloops Search and Rescue. Last year, those two agencies did this in Tobiano and Cherry Creek. So this has become a good spring ritual of talking to people, letting them know how our orders alert processes work if there were an event in their area and they did need to be evacuated. That's all for this section, Chair, and I'll pause if there was any questions.
Thank you very much. Director Haughton.
Yes, Colton, couple of things. Thanks to the staff and everybody that was able to accommodate all the applications for the local first responders applications, that they're all looked after and some didn't get left out. I think that's awesome. It's a great program and I'm glad to see that many participate. Second thing is to do with the Cherry Creek Tobiano fire hall situation due to the, looks like in the referendum that was presented, both sides, for whatever reason, refused to go along with what was presented. Where does that leave Tobiano now for fire coverage, and how does that affect the future of fire coverage in Tobiano? I know you mentioned getting land is one thing, but do we start all over again for square one and have to go to them with proposal and you know, with a new fire hall and the costs and referendum and all that? Where does it leave them in the meantime?
Thanks for your question through the chair. Yeah, so as Colton said, I think he used the term, we go back to square one, which means the Tobiano Fire Protection Service continues to exist. The department continues to exist and continues to function, but they're still without a hall. So when we say square one, it means we need to find a location to build a hall within the community of Tobiano, and we need public assent to approve borrowing to fund the construction of that hall. So we won't do the public assent until we have the details sorted out of what the location would be and the proposed design of the hall. So we would anticipate that process not happening this year, probably in 2026.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All right. On
Thank
we
you,
go.
Chair. Last but not least, responsible governance and service excellence. On paper, we probably have this one filled out the most for the 5 sections on this progress update. Just wanted to touch really briefly on a couple of those things. The board approved the asset manager new position at the TNRD in November, and that staff member started in early 2025. Mike Winowski is working on creating an asset management committee with staff and mapping out fairly ambitious timelines for creating asset management plans that are specific for each departments and long range and forward looking. Also the facilities manager position is new, and that separates capital projects and facilities management into 2 positions. I share an office with Dave, who started in January, and I can attest he's pretty busy looking after just our facilities. I think one of his phones is ringing every 20 minutes, it seems like. I know yesterday, or Monday, when we had the rain, they were up on the roof planning the part of the re-roof project that's going to happen here. So he's busy and out and about. That position has obviously led to more support for repairs and maintenance at our existing facilities. Probably the bulk of the time I would venture to guess is this building and our libraries. Moving on, Scott also talked about the email sign-up lists in his report, so I won't add too much, but we are excited to build this out as a main communication tool. This is just an example of something we sent out on June 30th to several hundred residents. So who aren't, it's not a news release, it's not formal, but it's a lot of what we put on social media, and why not share it on email where people get the +1 in their inbox if they're interested. It's completely up to them to receive this or not. And we've had decent uptake so far. And it's nice we're able to add photos to this. If we were able to scroll down, there's that first photo is a check mark for a fire smart property, and there's an example that would be below it of a not very fire smart property. So it's not just text on the paper like your plain, soul sucking email. And so this is good because it's twofold, because we don't have to rely on, if something's happening, we have to put it on Facebook. We will still do that. And that's always going to be a complementary tool, but we can rely on these a lot more too. Like when we had that fire, the Mount Scatcherd fire by Chase, we were able to put fairly informal updates saying that we're aware, we're working closely with the wildfire service to our email groups. And hundreds of people got that who wouldn't have gotten that email. So it's really valuable now that for about 3.5 weeks, we've been able to put this into practice. And we've talked already about the referendum, and questions have come up. But we did do a lot of communications, which is why I wanted to just also lump this in under kind of the other part of it, not just not the operational side, but the communicating with people side about when we're talking responsible governance and service excellence. We had a detailed webpage, and it's still up with the proposed service costs, the proposed service operations, and lots of info about the referendum. This was page 1 on your screen right now. This is page 1 of a 4-page mail out that we sent to every property owner with all sorts of info. The other 3 pages are just loaded with text and lots of FAQ style info. We obviously held 2 public meetings, and online and in person on back-to-back nights with the same presentation. 2 or 3 dozen people at the online meeting, and we had close to 100, about maybe 90 to 95 at the in-person meeting. So there was good attendance, generally good awareness, and we felt like people were pretty well armed with information, whether they, choose to go to these resources of factual information. We put out as much as we could to let people know. Just wanted to leave this on the screen after. These are the 5 strategic focus areas, and the bullet point list there is what you actually see at the end of each item in our board reports on how this connects to these strategic plans. So this is just maybe more of an appealing way to look at it. But that was all I had, Chair, for section 5. So if there are any questions, happy to do that too.
Thank you very much. Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that presentation. There was a learnable moment in that Cherry Creek Tobiano Fire Hall in terms of communications. In that area, there's 2 Facebook pages, one the Tobiano Facebook page and the other the Cherry Creek Connection. And we were allowed up until a week before the vote to post things on the Cherry Creek Connection. And you heard about that from a person who made a presentation a few weeks ago. In the Tobiano case of the Facebook page, they make it very clear that they do not accept any political information or anything that's political in nature. So we were unable to inform people at Tobiano through the Facebook page that there was actually pages and information that they could then access. A day or 2 before the vote, the Tobiano Homeowners Association posted something that suggested that people might want to think twice about voting in favor of the fire hall. And of course, there was no way to respond to that because we're not allowed to do that. I think that these are learnable moments, and it's why the reason I think we've got an attempt to communicate directly with our constituents. Just to show you how it can unravel, a second Cherry Creek Facebook group started up a week before, calling themselves the Real Cherry Creek Connection, because they were being told not to post certain things by the administrator of the first one. And so I think that we need to be careful the next time we go to a referendum or to something like this to say, okay, how are we going to handle this? We can't count on being able to respond to Facebook, even with sometimes with just reference pieces. Go get the information from here. And so that's one of the lessons that we have learned. Thank you.
You, and just on that, and then you get Cherry Creek Uncensored, and then you get Cherry Creek What's Going On, and then you get Cherry Creek WTF. I know it's just insane. Just something, and I know I know Mr. Davis does this anyway, probably, is just establishing relationships with those Facebook pages with the moderators or the page owners in the communities. Usually there is one main reliable, non-frothy Facebook page for a community. So that's usually a good one to find. And then just talk to the moderator. And I've done this in the past when with stuff about wildfires, just saying, look, and in one case I was made a moderator of the group so that I could post stuff immediately to it. So it's again comes down to that relationship building. If the moderators know who you are, sometimes they'll be willing to make a special case because they realize it's an exceptional one-time only deal. So, Director Sal?
Yeah, I just wanted to add the kudos to that for Area A. I know during Birch Island referendum, and in general, the TNRD account managed by Mr. Davies, that it's shares a lot to the Vaven B and Birch Island group. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? And particularly, I just want to say the TNRD, what I've seen, the difference in communication style, content, frequency, accessibility, ease of whatever, since between 2017 and now is night and day. I think Director Hayward, you'll probably back me up on that. In 2017 with the wildfire, with Elephant Hill, what we do today is light years ahead of how we communicated back then. And I think it's a great example of looking at a situation and saying, all right, what are the takeaways from this? How can we do better next time? So thank you to staff. Thank you, Colton, for keeping us out there, keeping us relevant, and keeping the lights on. Anyone else? All right, we move on to 11.1.4, Blackpool Fire Rescue Capital Budget Update. This is for information only. Mr. Vieira, anything?
No comments on this one unless there's any questions.
Any questions or comments on this one? All right, thank you. We move on to 11.1.5, Cooperative Community Wildfire Response Update. Information, back to Mr. Vieira.
Again, not speaking to this one, but I will the next one. But unless there's any questions, happy to take them. Colton already touched on this in his presentation.
And I just want to add or reiterate, thank you for being very creative and making sure that all the qualified groups that applied were able to find funding. I think that's again a great example of partnerships, working with other organizations to find the funding to enable them to take this initiative. Anyone else have any questions, comments? All right, 11.1.6, update on proposed Kamloops search and rescue hall. Mr. Vieira, you are not going to wiggle out of talking about this one because I have it written down here, Jamie to start conversation. So there we go.
And I'm up the next 3 in the row agenda items, so you'll be hearing enough from me.
All right, so over to you.
Yes, you'll be hearing from myself, and as well, we've invited Paula Davies, the president of Kamloops Search and Rescue, to also address the board ahead of the discussion on this report. So just before she takes the podium, I wanted to make a few comments. So just a bit of a reminder of the process is this concept, the idea of the TNRD supporting a new fire hall for Kamloops Search and Rescue first came forward in November 2023 to this board. And then it'd been revisited by this board a few times since then. But the concept was this TNRD finding some way to financially support a permanent home for Kamloops search and rescue operations. And I believe Paula will speak more to why that's needed. So since that time, a couple of updates. Both TNRD and City of Kamloops staff, along with Kamloops Search and Rescue, have gone through a few processes. The first one was quite an in-depth process to review available properties to look for a suitable location for a permanent SAR hall. And then following that, developed a preliminary design and cost estimate. And then the most recent development was an idea that came forward around partnering with Kamloops Fire Rescue to build a joint facility that would be split, where a portion of the hall would be used by KSAR and the other portion would be used by Kamloops Fire Rescue to replace their aging facility that's in the Rayleigh area. And so that is the topic of the most recent report in front of you. I do want to pause and provide some clarification on the TNRD's role in search and rescue. So regional districts are not legislatively responsible for providing search and rescue service. Emergency Management and Climate Readiness holds the authority and under which SARs operate, and search and rescue organizations are independent nonprofit organizations. Primarily, they are deployed by RCMP when they're performing duties. Now that said, we know that SAR groups across the province are chronically challenged with funding and are underfunded. They are 100% volunteer run. And the unfortunate reality is sometimes the volunteers need to spend a lot of time doing things like this, trying to fundraise instead of focusing on why they've volunteered in the first place and doing search and rescue operations. So because of that, local governments often are involved in different funding mechanisms for search and rescue groups, but it does look different across the province and depending on what those local governments have chosen to do. An example here is that City of Kamloops has been providing in-kind contribution for the use of the hall that's been their home for the last few decades, I believe now. And as well as through the TNRD funding mechanism, we have a regional grant and aid service where all the SAR groups that operate within the TNRD receive base funding amounts as well as can apply for additional capital grants. So the current proposal, though, in front of the board would be in addition to that current service level we're providing. So this is an opportunity for the TNRD to increase its involvement in supporting search and rescue to help address the critical infrastructure needs and support the important service. But it would mean that the TNRD would be taking on additional responsibility beyond what our current involvement is. So staff support the proposal that's in front of you now, but the decision ultimately is with the board whether they want to move this forward or not. So to speak more specifically about the actual work that Kamloops Search and Rescue does and their need for a new home, I'll turn it over to Paula Davies to say a few words. And then following the presentation, both myself or Paula can take questions from the board. Get you.
Thanks, Jamie. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the opportunity just to provide you with an update on Kamloops Search and Rescue. So as you probably know, this is our existing hall on Mission Flats Road, and we are literally bursting at the seams. Our fleet vehicles do not all fit in the hall anymore. And on the far right, we actually have a sea can full of our seasonal rolling stock that also will not fit in the hall. We have no training space. We have no classroom space. We've been vandalized. And so we really are in need of a new home. And of course, we got a lease termination date, which has come and gone. But the city has graciously allowed us to stay in this hall, provided we are looking for a new hall. So just a reminder what Kamloops Search and Rescue does. We do wilderness searches looking for missing and overdue people. We'll do urban searches looking for people with dementia and people with mental health issues. We'll do wellness checks and also evidence searches for the RCMP. And we use the acronym LAST, standing for Locate, Access, Stabilize, and Transport, to describe what we do out in the field. And this is a great example of our mapping capabilities. So this was the Shannon White search in 2021. We had 11 operational periods and more than 4,000 volunteer hours with many other teams helping us with boots on the ground. And this is one of our maps that we create. Every squiggly red line that you see there is a track from a member. The other things that KSAR provides is we assist BC Ambulance for rescues. We'll do body recoveries. We do fire and flood disaster response. We also do evacuation alerts and orders. That was the slide number 1 that I showed you. And we try to educate the community about safety and preparedness through our Adventure Smart program. So we actually want to educate the public to reduce the incidence of SAR in BC every year. And we do this all free of charge, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So KSAR provides a vital service to the community by rescuing people who are lost, injured, or in distress in remote or inaccessible locations. And our responsibility is wide. It goes far beyond the TNRD. We're often asked to do mutual aid outside the TNRD. Normally we do 50 to 65 tasks per year, but actually last year we had 75 callouts, a record. And our Swiftwater rescue team has been really busy of late. You've probably heard in the media in the last 11 days, we've had 5 Swiftwater callouts. So 4 of those callouts have been for the missing TRU student. The 4th operation was actually a recovery. And we also had 1 Swiftwater operation up in Wells Gray where we helped look for the father of the vehicle that went into the North Thompson. So we're very highly skilled professionals, and we will put our lives on hold or just drop everything to help others. We also have an ice rescue team. And we have a busy rope rescue team who will do high angle and slope rescue. So upper right was the Spa Hots Falls recovery. It was about a 200-foot drop. And on the left was a more recent rescue of a hunter just west of Adams Lake, where we did this rescue in the pouring rain. So we'll respond in all conditions. And we're also trained in winter and avalanche response, so we're able to travel by snowmobile in the winter time and search for people using AVI gear. We spend countless hours training. We also have 4 canine handlers, and 2 of which do man tracking, as well as all of them do wilderness air scenting. And our passion and dedication is relentless across all of our specialty teams. We have extensive air support capabilities, so we're able to ask for drones, for 442 Squadron from Comox, and PEP fixed wing airplanes with spotters, and also helicopters. And every year we do hover exit and entry training with helicopters. So funding or fundraising, we hired an independent consultant from Global Philanthropic, and they did a feasibility study for us, which was completed at the end of May. The results were positive. They indicated that we could raise $1.4 million, and this was after TNRD had asked us to see if we could raise some money for this project. In addition, KSAR has also put aside $500,000. But before we begin our capital fundraising campaign, we do require firm support from the city and the TNRD.
I've also spoken to Mark Forsyth, one of the managers from Vernon Search and Rescue, and they have a phenomenal new facility that was funded by their regional district. He says it's had a huge effect on their team. So they have improved training because they can train during the winter. So they actually have a rope climbing wall indoors that they can train on in the winter. They have cut their response times by about 30 minutes per call out. They have enhanced team camaraderie. They have more successful recruitment because their building has created a buzz in their community. He didn't have a lot of comment about retention because this hall just opened up in 2023, but he's pretty happy that the retention will be improved. And overall, he has said that this purpose-built hall has made Vernon SAR a stronger, more professional team. So KSAR needs your support to continue to provide our search, rescue, and recovery services for the Kamloops, City of Kamloops and the TNRD. Federal and provincial funding is just not enough. It doesn't meet the needs of SAR teams across Canada, nor will it anytime in the near future. We are an essential resource that RCMP, BC Ambulance, Kamloops Fire Rescue depend on, and we go where no others will venture and are response ready every minute of the day. So please support the joint purpose the purpose-built hall project for Kamloops Search and Rescue. And I'm going to leave you with this quote. So tourism in Kamloops is rooted in community and fueled by adventure. It's a central pillar of the city's identity and economy. And we've been doing this for over 50 years. Our presence in this community has enhanced the responsibility of safety for the residents of Kamloops and also the visitors. And we don't want to jeopardize that. Thank you.
Thank you. And we do have a recommendation.
I'd like to move all three recommendations. I'd like to speak to it.
Thank you. Moved by Director O'Reilly, seconded by Director Bass. Questions, comments?
Comments?
Director O'Reilly, Director Bass, Director Sarai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for coming in, for speaking, and for staff putting this together. This has been a very long road, I think, for KSAR, and since I've been involved going back probably close to 7 years, and I don't want to speak for KSAR, but I believe it's been close to a decade that you've been looking for a new home. And, you know, multiple different rounds of different locations, and you have looked all over the city. You know, I am concerned about the health of KSAR holistically, of your members, of these multiple potential new locations coming forward and not going anywhere, and having to go back to, frankly, dilapidated space that you're in now just because it's somewhere you can be. And I'm concerned for your membership and the health, and I think a new facility would definitely help with that. And I don't want to call out names, but I do feel like I need to call out Paula and Frank for the perseverance going through this for so long, and to get to this point. It's a very big thing. But for an education piece for the board, through the report, it notes the City of Kamloops land that's there. That land was actually donated to the City of Kamloops for a fire hall. And so it wasn't, the city didn't buy it. We didn't, you know, just say, hey, this is where it's going to go. This was donated by the Devick family for the purpose of a fire hall or safety and rescue. And so really, this to me is a perfect relationship, a good marriage that really can help each other and provide the entire region the support that KSAR provides, specifically KSAR, but also KSAR supporting the other SARs around the region that really rely on KSAR. This is a regional facility, and will make the entire regional district a safer place to live, work, and recreate. So thank you for your support or presentation.
Thank you. Director Bass.
Thank you. First, I just want to say I think it's appalling the senior levels of government don't support this. Absolutely appalling. But second, I just want to thank you for everything you do. I've had a lot of conversations with Frank, a few with Paula, and I wouldn't go near what you do at all. I can't even contemplate what you do and that what you're ready to do every single day. So thank you for everything you do. And I sure hope when you come back next, your stats are lower.
Director Sarai.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and echoing what my other directors have said, but I just want to switch gears just a little bit, just for my information. The funding that you said here, that could be 1.4 million, is that $500,000 that you have in the bank part of that 1.4 million projected, or is that separate? So it could almost be a $2 million investment.
No, I believe it's separate. Well, it is separate. So we have almost that 500,000 now, which we've been working on for a long time, and probably at the expense of maybe not some of the things that we should have been doing to keep current with the team, but it is there. But looking at the Vernon model, which was a good model, they ended up using some of that money to actually do the inside furnishing once the building was done. And as far as the funding goes for the fundraising, there is a chance that it could be more than that, but you never know until you've got money in the bank. And the problem also is there's a lot of other big fundraising things coming on out there, and we already know that one of our major donors, may be leaning towards, because I mean, TRU's got one, the hospital's got one, everybody's got a fundraising thing, so it is separate.
Supplemental, Chair, probably to staff. So in the light of, with the different projects going in, and Build Kamloops is one of them as well, there's so much going out there. We're chasing a lot of different agencies chasing the same dollar. If they don't meet that $1.4 million donation, does that have to come back to us to change our formula of borrowing?
Through the chair, yeah, that's an excellent question. And I think that question is yet to be, the dollars that were included in this were for discussion purposes. So the next step, if the board wants to move this forward, is to start locking in the commitments from each organization. So I think it's okay if I speak from KSAR's perspective, is that they've done a report, their feasibility study was telling them how much they think they could raise. So if the board wants to move this forward, I think the next step is for them to give a dollar figure saying this is our goal to contribute X amount of dollars on X amount of date. And then we incorporate that into the more fulsome financial model that comes to this board and the city of Kamloops when we start moving it forward to actually locking in what each area is contributing and what the timeline looks like and the public assent process, tax implications, all that detail. But we haven't got that far down in it yet, but that's the next step.
Thank you, Director Middleton.
Thank you. Nice to see you again. Just a point of clarification, because I think I sort of know the answer, but I'd like to make sure that the information I think I have is correct, is on some of the stuff you do, which included, I believe on your one slide, was transport, that you work in support of the BC Ambulance Service, who have areas that they are not allowed to drive on, as in unpaved roads. And we have multiple unpaved roads in our region. So whether it's tourists who are camping, but it could even be residents who are living a little further, more rural than many and whatnot. So on your sort of stats or whatnot, how much of this is sort of in support of the ambulance service that is unable to? Because I think a lot of people think of search and rescue as being you're only going out looking for lost skiers and sort of, the adventure tourists who run themselves into trouble or whatnot. But for what you're providing is actually a very sort of beneficial and much needed service for the residents who might not be going anywhere. They might just be at home, but they are still going to require the services should they run into an incident on their property or their home where they need ambulance service that won't come to them.
So our largest tasking agency is the RCMP. Approximately 74% of our callouts are RCMP and 24% BC Ambulance.
And just to further to that, you're correct. We have a great relationship with both of them, and it's like a team effort to get whatever needs to be done. The BC Ambulance Service is not supposed to go basically off pavement. I mean, everybody bends the rules a little bit, but a lot of the time we will go farther, find the person, package them, and take them to BC Ambulance who are waiting at the edge of the pavement.
Thank you.
Director Hayward.
Hi, I just want to reiterate for some of our other AAs here that it isn't just Kamloops. These folks have been in the North Thompson multiple times for many, many different things, for wildfires, for road control, for people lost in the water, for people lost in the bush. And they work with our search and rescue people and support them hugely. And I think that in the times that we live in right now, with all the wildfires, the crazy weather we're having, we don't know whether the river's going to dry up or flood and wash us all away. I think that these are really important organizations, and I think the TNRD should really consider supporting this in whatever way that we can do financially.
Thank you, Director Smith, and then Director Haughton.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question, when you're working in conjunction with BC Ambulance and providing extra service or extending their area where you can pick the people up and bring it back to them, is there no way you can be reimbursed by by BC Ambulance?
No, the answer is no.
Director Haughton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'll be supporting this for a lot of reasons, being in a neighboring electoral area that I know we all get a lot of benefits out of KSAR. But I also like to thank the Devick family for a longtime ranching family and good friends of ours for many, many generations that were born or they were raised in the Rayleigh property, and that's where Mr. and Mrs. Devick raised a family, and they have since ventured off on different parts of their ranch property. I'd like to thank the Devick property for leaving a legacy in their memory, and not everybody donates land and gives land away nowadays, but usually a farmer ranching longtime family are usually some of the first to do that, and I'd like to thank them.
Any other questions or comments? All right, we do have a recommendation on the floor. All those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. We will take a short break. Thank you. We're recessed for 10 minutes. All right, welcome back, everyone. Run, Mr. Vieira, run. We're on to 11.1.7 Parks and Trails Strategic Plan Adoption. And the reason he was running is because it says here, Jamie to start conversation. So over to you, Mr. Vieira.
All right, I'm the hot seat today. There is a brief presentation I'm going to flash up here. And I will keep this brief. I know we have a lot on the agenda still to go. But this has been a big project, so I wanted to provide a quick summary to the board because we've come a long way. And we're excited to present this final Parks and Trails strategy. Just wanted to give a shout out to the staff, especially Sherry Madden, who's sitting behind me, who led this project for the last year and a half, and Kevin Skrepnick as well. Do I have a remote? All right, so yeah, just a quick recap on the process. Back in March 2024, the TNRD board approved using some of the Regional Parks Reserve Fund to initiate this strategic planning process. So we hired a consultant and worked through a 5-phase process over the course of about a year to get to where we are today. So a big part of that process was the Parks and Trails Strategic Development Committee, which was made up by board directors that first met in September of 2024, again in November, March, May, and June. So we kept them busy through this entire process. Big chunk of this process was public engagement. So we actually did this in 2 separate rounds. So the idea was we first wanted to go out to the public and ask both public and stakeholders. So we specifically were reaching out to groups that are already involved in parks and trails. And then we also were engaging with the local First Nations. But the first phase was to get a sense, a clean slate. What do people like? What are people looking for? What opportunities is there? And then we used that information to develop a draft plan. And then we went back out for the second round of engagement and consultation to say, here's the draft plan we put together. What do you think? What should we change? What should we add? And then we took that feedback back and forth to our committee a number of times. And the final draft is what you have in front of you today. So I won't go through it in detail, but I just wanted to highlight the key components of the plan. So the purpose of it is, and this is an important piece because I've had a few questions from board members already. Plan is to outline the future direction, philosophy, policies, and actions for the TNRD regional and community parks and trail service. So it'll guide the integrated delivery of parks and trail services over the next 10 years. So it is a strategic document that's going to guide us through the process. As you'll see in the recommendations, we don't get down to the very granular level of around specific improvements to specific parks, but now we actually have a framework and some staff direction to start working down to that level. So the vision that's included in the plan is fostering First Nations reconciliation, growing and managing regional and community parks and trail system, creating opportunities for people to recreate, and supporting communities. So that's going to be done through 7 goals that are under 23 recommendations. So these are all in the draft plan. I thought I'd just highlight the goals. The first goal is to foster government-to-government relationships with Indigenous communities. As this picture attests, we're on our way to doing that as an organization, but specifically within the context of parks and trails, that's a front-running goal. So again, I won't go through the specific goals, but you'll see in the document that what we do is all of our recommendations are tied to those goals. And then as we move forward into implementation of this plan, we're working through those recommendations and we'll be coming back to the board with those very specific actions and if costing timeline related to each of those recommendations as we start working through this. Second goal is to support local outdoor recreation organizations that build and maintain and manage parks and trails. One of the big things that came out, which we kind of expected to come out, is that the TNRD's direct involvement in parks and trails and region-wide is quite small. But there's a huge number of organizations that are involved directly in it. And so one of these goals are how can the TNRD work within those existing and work with those existing groups to improve things. Third goal was to improve collaboration with nonprofit, industry, and other levels of government. So a lot of this has to do with increasing collaboration. One of the specific recommendations that came out of this was this idea of sub-regional trail working groups. So really getting down to the people in communities that are involved in these processes and getting them all in the same room talking about shared interests and values. Fourth goal was to establish management and maintenance tools for long-term sustainability of our existing parks and trails infrastructure. So there's a lot of fairly specific recommendations here that relates to our existing parks and trails. Fifth one is to enhance park experience for all visitors. A lot of these recommendations are tied to our accessibility strategy that was adopted by the board earlier this year. And goal number 6 is to increase supply of TNRD parks and trails. So it definitely did come out that the existing infrastructure that we own and operate is not evenly distributed around the TNRD, and there are a lot of opportunities for increasing parks and trails throughout the regional district. So both community parks that are funded locally from electoral areas, as well as regional parks, the larger, more destination style recreation and trail opportunities. So what's next? Kind of already got ahead of myself and alluded to this. But so the implementation of this plan, if it's adopted by the board, would be the next step. So in the document that's in front of you now, there is a high-level implementation plan that has priority ranking and time frame, but really more detailed implementation plan would be required, and that would be led by staff following the adoption of the strategy. So we'd be looking at identifying, first step would be identifying some quick wins, what can be implemented with existing resources and budgets, and then identifying the recommendations of what's recommended to start next, and we start integrating that into our budgeting process. So the recommendation to adopt this strategy doesn't directly come with any cost implications based on the vote today. However, as we start looking at specific recommendations, then we'll discuss specific costs, and that'll be worked into budget processes. And I will leave it at that and put it to questions. This is the TNRD board in 2024 at one of our parks in Lower Nicola.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Vierde. First of all, we do have 2 recommendations. Who would like to move the first one? Whoa. Director Blackwell, seconded by Director Thorpe. Thank you. So discussion, questions, comments, observations, witty epigrams, anything? No? Okay, Director Blackwell, Director Sal.
Thank you for the work on this once again. Great stuff, and it's nice to see us. I really like the idea in your next steps of looking for those easy wins so we can show that this thing actually can work. That's great. I absolutely think this is fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. And Director Sal?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, staff, again, for the work you've put into it. Just wanted to share the comments like I feel whenever I go to the Lower Mainland, which I do quite often to see my parents and bring my kids to enjoy the public facilities that they pay for, that the TNRD really does stay ahead of the curve in whatever jurisdiction that we have, parks and trails and the libraries, because I've seen how these those facilities in the Lower Mainland get inundated and overwhelmed right now, where there is no drop-in for a swimming pool. I showed up into the swimming pool and they're like, "Did you book online?" And I'm like, "Oh." So yeah, no, kudos to the strategic thinking of our staff and the board, and yeah, I think this will put us really ahead of the curve for our parks needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Director Lepso?
I think this is great because it really gives us a chance with our relationships with our Secwepemc and other First Nations. So like the Village of Chase has been involved through the Shuswap Trail Lines for 20 years. So one quick example is the next trail we're building is we got funding for elders. And so the elders go in and they look at the trail before we do anything. So I'm really excited about this project.
Thank you. Anything else? On the motion, then all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That's carried. We have a second recommendation. Director Thorpe, seconded by Director Bass. Any discussion on this? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. 11.1.8. I do not have a note saying Jamie to start conversation. This one says Jamie to provide overview, just to change things up a little bit. So 11.1.8, Strategic Priorities Fund Grant Application. Mr. Vieira, over to you to provide an overview.
Thank you, Chair. I'm back. So this is a big decision, a big ask. So I wanted to provide a bit of an introduction to it, and happy to get into details with questions on this. So I thought I'd start out with a quick introduction with the Strategic Priorities Fund and what that is. So it is part of the Canada Community Building Fund program administered through UBCM. This one that just got announced, the application deadline is September 12th. So even though it's within the Canada Community Building Fund, this is a separate fund that's specific for supporting large-scale infrastructure and capacity building projects. As far as I understand, they don't have a hard and fast rule in terms of how often it comes around, but based on the last few cycles, it's about every 3 years it has been opening up. So it's not an annual opportunity, but it is one of those opportunities where there's typically large amounts of funding available. And in this case and in previous iterations, 100% of the cost eligible under the grant, not a 60-40 split like some of the other ones. Probably seeing a lot of heads nodding from some of the municipal directors who are probably also looking at reports around applying for this fund either shortly or already have. So this intake, there's 125 million in total that's available province-wide. Of that, 119 is specific to capital infrastructure. It's not applicable in Metro Vancouver, but all the other municipalities and regional districts are essentially going to be looking at and competing for that pot of money. So I won't go through this list, but the eligible projects is quite broad. From community facilities, emergency upgrades, broadband, flood protection, utilities, transportation infrastructure. So there's a lot of municipal infrastructure that's eligible. Most is eligible under this program. So that takes me to the gist of this presentation is, well, we have no shortage of TNRD projects. In our existing capital plan over the next 5 years, we have $65 million of capital projects. 35 million of that is just within the utility service alone. Now, just a reminder, our capital plan shows what the funding source for each of those capital projects are. And we have one category called miscellaneous grants that's funding some of the capital projects, which is our fancy way of saying we need a grant or else it's not happening. So of that 65 million, a lot of it won't happen unless we utilize grants such as, or apply for and are successful for grants such as these. Because the intake is, or the turnaround for an application is quite quick, and that's typically the case with this particular grant, the projects have to be shelf ready. We can't be going into a feasibility study or doing detailed engineering over the course of 6 weeks to submit a grant application. As we look at eligible projects from a staff level that we bring forward to the board for a recommendation like this, we're considering the evaluation criteria, what will make a strong application. One thing I mentioned in the report that I wanted to mention again, we do know, it's been clarified from UBCM staff that generally speaking, the higher the ask for money, the lower the likelihood of success, because it's that finite pot of money that has to go around the province. So asking for the full amount is equivalent of over 5% of that total pot of money. But that being said, as we've talked about many times, this board and what we talk about basically for hours on end at their utilities committee is that some of these capital projects on the utility side require large scale grants, or it's the only opportunity for those projects to ever happen. In our other services that have a larger tax base, there are other funding opportunities, funding from reserves or borrowing for those projects. So for that reason, we brought this forward to the utility committee from a staff level, recommending that we apply for utility infrastructure under this grant. And the specific recommendation to the utilities committee was for the Savinaw water treatment plant. And they took that recommendation and have now passed it along to the board. That was voted on just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at the June 25th utilities committee, that the Savinaw water treatment plant should be prioritized. So very briefly, why Savinaw? When I said there's $35 million in other capital projects there. Well, the Savinaw, first of all, the water system there is the largest one that the TNRD owns and operates, with almost 300 connections and 650 residents. It's our largest system, and it is failing to meet the established service levels that the TNRD board has set to provide and supply clean drinking water. It is an ongoing health risk. 63% of the time, just the data that we looked at was the last 5 years. Over the last 5 years, they are on either a boil water notice or a water quality advisory for 63% of the year. The other reason we're recommending Savinaw specifically on the utility side is that it aligns with the TNRD's policy for utility systems, that we focus funding and grant applications for infrastructure that creates the greatest benefit to the greatest number of people. So as you'll see in the report, the proposed funding sources and the budget for the Savinaw water treatment plant exceeds the maximum intake for the Strategic Priorities Fund. So the proposal would be to ask for the full maximum of $7 million under this fund. And then the second recommendation of this report is also to allocate the existing grant funding that we've been holding on to under the Growing Communities Fund, which I'll speak to in a second. And the final funding would be through the Gas Tax Fund, the Canada Community Building Fund. So a reminder, the Growing Communities Fund is that one-time grant funding that all local governments received in 2023. We received $5.4 million, and approximately half of that has already been allocated by this board to 3 projects that are already ongoing: a water treatment plant for Pritchard, a sewer plant for Pritchard, and a reservoir in Wallachine. And so we'll have approximately $3 million remaining that could be allocated towards this project. The remaining funding source is the CCBF, or the gas tax, that we would propose be allocated from what's in Area J. Now, I mentioned this in the report and want to clarify today. We're not making a specific recommendation here today around the allocation of that funding, because there's a few different options of how that can be allocated, whether it's all allocated from Area J or whether there's contributions from other electoral areas. Those conversations haven't been had yet, so we think that what I'm recommending here is we first have the board decide whether or not they support the $10 million, the $3 million from the growing communities, and applying for the $7 million before we go down into the CCBF allocation. So if the board supports the recommendations today, there'll be a subsequent report related to this $1 million of other funding that needs to be allocated.
Try it again. Moved by Director Brantes, seconded by Director Haughton. Discussion. Director Lepso?
I'm just wondering, when I'm looking at the financial obligations, when we recently got a grant for $6 million, but we were obligated to put $100,000 a year away in reserves. Is this am I getting ahead of myself here, or is this something we might have to look at?
Yeah, very good question through the chair. I'm not sure the specific requirement that you're referring to, but we have some discussion in here around asset management and what that looks like and potential impact or impact to future fees. So a part of the application criteria is to show we have an asset management plan and we're planning for replacements of these infrastructures and for this infrastructure. So short answer is yes, we will be, if we are successful with this application, we would be revisiting our fee structure and what that looks like. So there would likely be increased fees or recommendations to increase fees to make sure we're putting aside money for replacement and maintenance of these assets.
Director Grenier.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I would just like to add that in Savinaw, the existing water distribution system was run by the Savinaw Improvement District, who also run the fire department. They asked the TNRD to take over the water system because they couldn't handle a failing distribution system. So TNRD has done that. And in that part of that process was funding by residents for the fix-up of the distribution system. So the question came up with one director earlier this week, how much are the residents prepared to put in? And the answer to that is that they've already done that. And they had a Canada Day celebration, and the fellow flipping the burgers when I said, you know, we're working really hard to get a water treatment plant. He says, oh, geez, he says, we can't afford any more water bills and all the rest of that sort of stuff. They feel that they're being taxed out. They're still paying for part of that borrowing that we did with the distribution system. On top of that, our utility board was very aggressive as you have already heard, in increasing all our utility systems to maximize our reserves, as you have raised, Director Lepso, and to make sure that what we have right now, we can try to support. So this is just a quick way, hopefully a quick way of saying that we have asked people in Savinaw already to participate. They already did participate. They already are paying their maximum fees, and yet they're still on a boil water advisory. When I moved to this community 30 years ago, I went to the chapter's viewpoint, and I was asked at lunch, what do you want to drink? I said, oh, I'll just have some water. And they said, bottled water or tap water? I said, oh, give me the tap water. And everybody was kind of looking at me puzzled, and they brought out a glass of brown water. That was before the city of Kamloops had their water treatment plant. So we're still dealing with that in Savinaw in terms of boil water advisory. And the people in Kamloops will well understand what that did for Kamloops when they were finally able to get that water quality excellence building. And this is an opportunity for the people in Savinaw to finally get clean water if we even get the grant. So that's just a little background there.
Thank you. Our water treatment plant opened in Ashcroft in 2019. Not that we were plagued with a plethora of boil water advisories or notices before that, but since it opened, we have not had one. So the people who were vehemently opposed to it in the years leading up to the building have not said anything about it since. And I'll just point out further to Director Grenier, this is not just a health issue. This is not just a sanitary issue or a convenience issue for the people of Savinaw. This is about, again, ensuring that rural areas of the province have equity with our more urban areas. We are trying to attract people to our area to come and live, whether it's in a community or whether a municipality or whether it's in an electoral area. We're trying to get them to come to our communities. If they live in an urban area where they have no idea what a boil water notice or alert or advisory is, it's a shock to move to somewhere where these are common, and it becomes an economic driver to be able to get rid of this so that we can get people coming to our communities knowing that they are not going to have to boil their water because they're not used to it and they don't want to do it. Anyone else have any questions or comments? All right, on the question then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. We move on very briefly to 11.1.9. There's been a discussion ongoing over the afternoon, and so I am going to move that the decision of the board be postponed until the August 14th, 2025 regular board meeting. Do I have a seconder? Director Stanky, thank you very much. Any discussion on this? So 11.1.9 will almost certainly be returning to us like a homing pigeon on the 14th of August. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. That is carried. 11.1.0 and 11.1.11, or 10 and 11. Why did I not just say 10 and 11? It's been a long afternoon. They are here for your information and edification. Does anyone have any questions on the building permit activity? No? We have committees. We have the minutes of the Wells Grey Country Services Committee, Utility Systems Committee. Anyone have any questions or comments on any of those, either of those? We have 12.3, the Parks and Trails Strategic Plan Development Standing Committee. We do have a recommendation arising out of that. Director Sal, thank you very much. Director Smith seconds that. Anyone have any questions or comments? No? On the question then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. 12.4, we have a recommendation arising out of the Governance and Boundary Review Standing Committee. Move the recommendation, Director Sarai, seconded by Director Thorpe. Thank you. Any questions or comments on this one? All those in favor? Is anyone opposed? Carried. 13.1.1, we have a request from Lytton First Nations, and we do have a request for action. Director Thorpe? If you could make the motion?
I would like to make the motion, please.
Okay, so this is a request for a letter of support regarding projects to enhance outdoor recreation and cultural spaces at the battlefield location. Who would like to second that? Director Smith, thank you. And any discussion, questions, comments? Did you wish to speak to this, Director Thorpe, or?
No, I just think it's a fabulous project. I think it's a great opportunity for the entire region, and it actually ties into the whole Parks and Trails somewhat. So I'm fully in favor of this, and I hope everybody else is as well.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? On the question then, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. We have a couple of items here for information. Does anyone have any questions or comments about those? All right, we move on to new business. I understand, Director Thorpe, you have a piece of new business for us.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to ask that the board approve a one-time exemption to the electoral area grant and aid policy to increase the maximum annual grant of maximum annual allowable grant to $5,500 for a one-time allowance for the Friends of Wallachine Society. Normally, this grant is a maximum of $5,000, but we do have an exception this time to deal with some wildfire equipment that I'm hoping the board will support me in. So I'm asking if I can make that motion and somebody would second it, please.
Seconded by Director Grenier. Thank you. Any discussion? No. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? That is carried. Thank you. We now move on to, or is there any other new business? I apologize. Director Haughton and then Director Grenier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A couple of things. I just want, we've had a bit of a cabinet shuffle today in the provincial government, and I think we've lost a pretty good person in George Chow in the citizenship. I believe that was the name of the ministry, where Directors Grenier, Thorpe, myself, and I believe others. I think Director Chow worked very hard trying to get us internet throughout the province. At least at the UBCM, he was one that would at least listen to us. And for whatever reason, Premier Eby decided to change that position. I'd just like to thank Director Chow for his hard work on our behalf. And the second thing is probably getting back to what we talked about earlier. in our other meeting that was earlier today is now that we're going down the road of possibly adding I'll use the term community library on top of the hill at the new City of Kamloops Arena Complex, maybe it's time that the City of Kamloops and the, I don't want to get rid of that word fringe, so I'll call it neighboring electoral areas, the three that are within the boundaries of the City of Kamloops, revisit the idea of possibly helping participate in whichever way we can to the Build Kamloops committee. It's something that they approached us earlier on, and now that we seem like we've are going to be working hard together on a joint library, I think maybe it's due time that we met again and talked about how we can participate to bring neighbor to neighbor, make it work better for all of us, and us three areas contribute where we can and how we can, and so that we feel we're part of it, and City of Kamloops has good neighbors to the outside. So I just I'm asking the city, possibly me to, and us to have this at the earliest convenience.
Thank you. Director Hall.
Thank you. I'd just like to respond to my good neighbor up the hill, as over the hill. Not yet, Dougie. As the chair for Build Kamloops, I can assure you that I've had conversations with staff already. And as we discussed earlier today, they will be reaching out to the good neighbors and bringing them into fold so they understand, the level of development that is going on and some of the challenges that are going to come forward, and as well as opportunities that are going to come forward through the Build Kamloops initiative. So we've made it abundantly clear that our good neighbors need to be at the table as well. Thank you. They'll be reaching out to you.
Thank you. Anything else under new business? Director Grenier? Yes, I did have your name down here.
Thank you, Chair. And a bit of additional good news. Got a call from a former director, Mr. Sternegg, complimenting our finance department on this 2025 property tax guide, and the information that comes down very much explains it. And it was interesting because he said not only is this information useful, but we now see that there's other regional districts that are copying this initiative. One of the things that was raised in this, I happened at the same time he had called, I was comparing this against my tax bill. And the numbers were almost exactly the same, but not quite. So I was wondering why they weren't. And so we got talking about the collection of taxes by the province. And what the province does is it tacks on a collection fee on top of the numbers that we have in here. And so that's why it's a little different on the tax bill. So the suggestion was that maybe the next time we put this out next year, that we just simply note that as there's a collection fee by the province. And his recollection when he was on council was that there was a UBCM resolution that asked the province why the collection fee was 5 or 5.25%. So I've briefly discussed this with our CFO, and I don't know if there's something that we are interested in talking about UBCM, if that was already a resolution that was passed, whether that's something of interest, or if you have any comments on that.
Thank you, Chair, through to the board. I think there's a couple things that come up with that. One would be there has been some communication coming down that the province had suggested sometime in the future looking at having regional districts process taxation just like municipalities do. That initiative, if that takes hold, would download that work back to the regional districts. And of course, the regional district resources would have to change to incorporate that type of work. I've only heard that the one time and I haven't heard anything more from that. I imagine that would be a multi-year conversation and project. But for one, adding a note into the pamphlet, I think it's a great idea. I've already noted it and sent it out to the people that would help me with that. It's a very easy thing to do. And the other piece of that is for the board themselves, if that is something that they wanted to bring a conversation to the province about the 5%, that would be your prerogative.
Thank you. Any other question? CAO Hildebrand?
Thank you, Chair Roden. Just a quick comment on that. I know there's a regional district piloting this right now, and it's going through UBCM and through the ministry where they're going to take on that responsibility of doing taxation. It's going to require a lot of work, but there is actually somebody that's trying to make that happen. So we should probably watch what happens there prior to engaging.
Thank you. Any other questions under anything else under new business? Questions, comments? All right, we move on to 15.1, notice of motion presented by Director Onslow, first presented at the June 26th meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My notice of motion is that the board directs staff to conduct an in-house feasibility study for providing nuisance mosquito control service in electoral area B, and that the report be completed by the end of 2025 and include operational costs, tax implications, public consultation feedback, and recommend a public assent process.
Thank you. And Director Bass, are you seconding that?
Oh, I second it, but I have a question, but not of, but I have the question of our corporate officer.
Okay, so did you want to second?
Yeah, I'll second it, sure.
Okay,
second it.
perfect. Thank you. Okay, it has been moved and seconded. And Director Bass, you have a question for the corporate officer?
Corporate officer, one of the reasons that there's a delay between tabling a notice of motion and voting on it is to give the people who will be voting on it an opportunity to contemplate it. You can't do that if it's not on a piece of paper you can take home. So could we change our procedure so that if we're going to table a notice of motion, we get a copy of it? Because I just seconded something and I have absolutely no idea what I seconded. Because I was also hoping that I would get the chair's attention while she was reading her motion. So, but I trust Director Onslow, so I know it's going to be something good. But it would have been nice to have had the last couple of weeks to actually look into it. That's all. That's all I'm asking, if we could do that.
Through to the chair, through to, or through, anyways. I'm trying to think of everything else. Absolutely, we could do that. Would you prefer that we hand it out at the time of, like, prior to the meeting, when it was first introduced?
Well, I think we need to get it as soon as it's tabled, so we can take it home and look at it in case it happens to be something that might have more consequence on a bigger issue or something that I don't know anything about, which is a lot of things as well. So at council, what we do is we make sure by the end of the day of the meeting when the notice has been tabled that we have a copy of it.
Okay.
So something like that. Just because I'm old and I can't remember.
Yeah, we can email a copy out or we can
You're super.
provide a hard copy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, having it printed out here in the agenda a week before the meeting isn't enough?
No. I like to have it, well, maybe it is for some people. It is not for me.
Okay, no, I'm just wondering
no.
because it is here and
I don't think that far
This
ahead to look back. And I don't open my laptop very often because I don't like screens. But I really love paper. You must understand that, Chair Roden. We love paper and the printed word.
I keep waiting for that paperless office they promised us 25 years ago.
Yeah, I just think it's a lot easier because it's so much easier just to ignore your laptop and not even think about it until the next time. But if there's a piece of paper there and you're obsessed with paper, you might actually look at it.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this? Director Lepso.
I just wanted to follow up on that because we just had with Councillor Bass's, we just had a motion passed with no information under new business. So it's the same, I agree. I'd like to have information ahead of time on what I'm voting on.
Any other questions or comments? All right, on the question then, all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? That is carried. 15.2, notice of motion presented by Director Sarai. Director
Thank you,
Sarai?
Madam Chair. Corporate Officer, do I need to read the whereases or just as therefore? I think for Director Bass, I'll read the whole thing. I think. It's. Break it up. And then I'm gonna run out of here. Whereas the Kamloops Airport Authority Society plays a crucial role in the development and the management of the airport operations, regional transportation and economic growth that services communities across the TNRD district. And whereas the Kamloops Airport Authority Society, CAS is short, plays a central role in the strategic planning and governance of the Kamloops Airport and provides economic health, develops and promotes tourism initiatives that directly impact TNRD communities and supports regional growth. Therefore, be it resolved that the TNRD Board directs staff to engage with the Kamloops Airport Authority Society to explore and pursue the TNRD's partnership with the Society and explore opportunities to enhance collaboration between the TNRD and the Society.
Seconded by Director Morris. Thank you. All right, discussion. Anyone have any questions or comments on this? Mr. Vieira, there's something wrong. I don't have your name beside this one to speak to it. No? Nothing? All right then, on the motion, all those in favor? Is anyone opposed? Thank you. That is carried. We move on to question period. No, no one there, no one online with their hand up. All right, I move that we move into a closed meeting and that meeting be closed under Community Charter Section 91G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the regional district. Do I have a second? Director O'Reilly, thank you very much. All those in favor? Carried. We will adjourn very briefly and move into closed.